Hello, Authentically Me beauties. Thank you so much for being here today and tuning into my podcast. It means so much to me, and so do the humans that I have on this show today. For the month of February, we're focusing on sex, dating, and relationships. And so immediately I thought of my dear friends, Alexa and Jordan, because to me, they are proof that conscious coupling can exist and be beautiful. And not only that, but on an individual basis, Alexa is proof to me that women can really support one another. And she's shown up for me, and I always feel seen by her. And I also feel seen by Jordan. And he is proof to me that men do this work as well. So I'm so honored to have you guys here. I know that you lead busy lives, and it is truly a blessing for you to take this time and be present with me and my listeners. So thank you. And whoever wants to go first, if you could just tell my listeners, who are you?
Thank you for all of that. Thank you for you. I want to first compliment your outfit and your hair and your face and your aura. So that was like 5.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you have such a beautiful presence. Like I think I've shared this with you before, but it's so soft, it's so kind, it's so genuine, and it's so powerful. It's really soothing, especially in this moment when we're feeling some feels, big, fast moving energy with moving into our new place here in Austin. So thank you for the opportunity to take a break from it and to be here now. Um, so I think you asked me, who am I, or something like that. I think the most fun way I like to describe it right now is unapologetically a conscious bro. Yeah, like I very much resonate with the light and even some of the dark side of bro culture. And I'm even reluctant to say that because I feel like on the onset that might spark a judgment where somebody listening to this would be like, oh, this fucking guy kind of thing. And unapologetically, I don't give a shit. And then the conscious comes into play because if you add conscious in front of everything, it makes it okay. In fact, it makes it spiritual AF. So
always.
So that's me. I do all kinds of things. I love basketball. That's the place I like to start because people are like, oh, what do you do? Like, I'm going to tell you my job or some shit. No, I love basketball. That is the thing that I most enjoy in life. It's the thing I'm most passionate about. When I'm playing basketball on a consistent basis, my life is typically pretty damn good. Beyond that, I'm a men's coach, specialized in social magnetism and confidence, as well as dating. And I MC events, facilitate workshops, retreats. Alexa and I do things together. We do coaching together. We do high-level immersion experiences. I'm also with a conscious boy brand called the Mystic Misfits, which you know well. That's how we first connected at a retreat. And that's myself, my older brother, and my best friend, my brother from another mother. So the 3 of us. And I live in Austin, Texas. We have 2 dogs.
This is very like he's reading.
I'm really enjoying this.
Fill in these blanks, like fill in this form.
Get out of here. It's not your turn yet.
That was not a negative thing. It's just like read this and read that. I love it.
Thank you.
Do mine too.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm not done yet, so if I'm done, then you can jump in. And yeah, so we're moving from one home to another here in Austin. It's really good. And also it's challenging because moving's never really that fun. In fact, it sucks, but we're working through. We're getting an opportunity to flex our relationship muscles so that it can break down a little bit and then grow bigger and stronger.
We're still together.
We're still together. And yeah, I love Austin. And I love my dog. I talked about our dogs. And I also have my dog that I've had for almost a decade now. He's 9 as of next month. And it's Biggie James Smalls. I have him tattooed on my leg. He's my pride and joy, my firstborn baby boy.
Reaching.
Okay, I'm done. Yes.
Likes to hear himself talk.
I love that you gave a diversified and unique answer. And most people, you're right, are just like, hey, this is what I do for a living, um, under the context of a podcast, especially. So, with that, Alexa, feel free to be your own human, because you are. And who are you?
Yeah, well, I'm everything that is required in order to attract this conscious clown. He is a real life walking, talking cartoon character, and my life is never dull. Like never, ever, ever dull. And one of my favorite things about us as a unit, before I go into a little bit more of like me specifically, one of my favorite things about us is how we navigate stressful times. And I tell Jordan every so often, it's usually just after we've broke down and then we broke through and there's been some tears, where I remind him that one of, if not the main reason why I'm in this relationship is because of how we navigate conflict, not because of how awesome it is whenever we are our happiest.
That's good shit.
I am, every time we go into any kind of conflict, I'm like, wow, I am so impressed. But I'm also still in the midst of like feeling all kinds of shit. I am so impressed. So thank you for that. Thank you, pat on my own back for attracting that. Okay. So now I feel like I got to tell you about my hobbies because of what Jordan said.
Okay, be your autonomous sovereign being.
Basically, what I find the most joy in is, gosh, it's two things that seem kind of counter. If you're familiar with human design, I am a 6'2" manifester. And so for those of you who like know that, then you'll know what I'm talking about. And for those of you who don't, go into human design. I very much resonate with being a manifester, initiating and creating, like being a lead catalyst for things to come to fruition. And the 6 and the 2 is role model and hermit. I really love to be alone, which is hard, having Conscious Bro, Biggie James Smalls, and Little, our baby French bulldog.
Oh, wait, can you show them?
Yes, except this is a podcast. And so unless they see the video.
This is our little Frenchy baby lady.
Hi, baby.
And she is literally snorting.
Yep, I can hear that. Hopefully you can too.
So I love this family unit that I have in my life. And also I really love vegging out and just like being alone. And the counter to that is the role model. My 6 is a role model. I can't help not being in that leadership position. And a lot of my life I have spent trying to fight who I am deep down, to be more like others, to be more submissive, to be more manipulative, not manipulative, but manipulated. I'm just gonna make words up. Easily influenced, to be the follower versus the leader and that kind of thing. And at this current juncture in life, like I am really enjoying being very conscious about how I am stepping into more of the leadership roles. I spend a lot of time with my girlfriends, and I could not have said that a year ago. Moving to Austin has been amazing. I host women's circles with a really big group of women here in Austin, and I spend a lot of time talking about sex, love, relationships, the varying dynamics within. People are having too much sex, not enough sex, the wrong kind of sex, just uncomfortable sex. That is definitely one of my superpowers that I think my mom wishes I did not have, because being from the very deep South, Louisiana, and growing up mostly Catholic-ish, church on Wednesdays and Sundays most of my life, like it could have been anything. Going into business on my own was enough, but then for it to be about sex, and then also love and relationships, I feel like she would have preferred it to be other things. But yeah, that is definitely my superpower. And I'm oftentimes in community, cracking people open, even if I don't try. So I tried to give you like the non-generic version of who I believe I am.
Love it.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I relate to a lot of that. And I don't know if you saw my Insta story before we jumped on here, but you guys are my first 3-way. So
yeah.
How fitting is that,
is not our first time being people's first. I don't even know where that came
I
from.
haven't heard that voice. That was a new one.
It was you. I was channeling you.
That's some good shit. So I'm going to dive into these questions because you guys are a literal power couple and before me. So I know that there's a lot of wisdom that you have, and I'm ready to crack you open and share that wisdom. My first question is, what does it mean to be a man to you, Jordan, and what does it mean to be a woman to you, Alexa?
What a good question. It can go
Like
so many
explain
directions.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Or like explain the universe.
Uh-huh.
Or like, creativity.
What does it mean to be a man? I think the thing that most deeply resonates with me around being a man, like the foundation, the core of it is purpose, like a deep sense of righteous purpose that has a divine orchestration within it and all around it. And that can shift and certainly does throughout my life, and I think for most men. So that's a big one. What really just came through too is the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. That's the top of mind in my men's group that I'm facilitating in. We dug into that, and the first one being impeccable with your word in particular, that one really resonates with being a man. And yeah, I think David Data's work, specifically Way of the Superior Man, reading that spoke to me in so many ways. And the differences between masculine and feminine dynamics and how a man shows up and how he supports a woman. So it's like that deep, unchanging, unshakable pillar, like foundation kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what's coming up for me. What are you giggling about?
You make this fist up in motion when you're talking about an erection.
Yeah,
So
I do.
You're like,
I say cock solid.
Yeah.
Usually my line that goes with
that is a motion of fuck you.
it. It is, you're right.
Why did you just do anyway, you've just been very politically correct the last couple of days, which has been a lot of
effort.
Fun, yes. Most-ish.
Yeah.
Conscious bro. Right? Yeah. So a little bit of both. Anyway, to be a woman, the first thing that came to mind was the ultimate receiver, and not, being a woman looks like a lot of different things for a lot of different people these days. And so when I consider what does it mean to me as a woman, what does it mean to be a woman 2020? Gosh, it looks like getting the messaging that my great grandparents or my great grandmother had this particular kind of life that was oppressed and couldn't vote and didn't have a voice. And then it looked like her daughter being able to express and have an opinion, but only so much so. And then it looked like my mother being, going into the military and having all these rights that the 2 generations before her didn't have. And then it looks like me getting the messaging growing up that I can go to school and I can get an education and I should be all these things because I can be, have, and do it all as a woman. And I actually don't need a man because I get to be that whole package. And what it looks like now is realizing the repercussions of having that directive throughout my life, because I do need a man. I do need a partner. And I don't consider myself equal. I consider myself as a woman very uniquely a woman, and my partner very uniquely a man. And for me now, my challenge and what it means to be a woman is to surrender, is to be sweet, is to be soft, is to be gracious, is to harness power without having to be super uber directive with it, and to be graceful. And even in the midst when I am feeling all of the rage of discrepancy and injustice and all of this, is like, how can I reclaim all of the what I understand as like woman of 2020 and respect and appreciate and truly admire everything that 3 or 4 more generations of women before me, like how can I essentially take what I understand and what the messaging is of today and alchemize it with that respect of the past. And then, I am formulating what it means to me. I am formulating what it means to be the next phase, the next wave of a woman.
Holy Good God. She just caught a flow state and rode that wave. Motherfucker.
Yeah,
That was
awesome. Yeah, I
yeah.
know
Uh-huh.
that's like pure medicine. Most women need to hear that. So thank you. Thank you for opening up and gifting us that. Um,
You win.
You win for sure. I got a big old heart on for you.
Oh,
So
thanks.
oh my
Heart.
goodness. You both are winning, so I'm just gonna say
thank
that.
you.
So to me personally, you are a representation, as I said in the beginning, of like an ideal conscious couple to me. This is my opinion. So what does a conscious couple mean to you, and how does a couple become more conscious?
Mm. Yeah, there's so many layers to this. So there's some of the traditional, I'll say, with like the standards par for the course: respect, love, appreciation, admiration, communication.
Other things that end in TION.
Totally. And yeah, those are all great. And again, the foundation. Bigger than that, the thing for us that has been most impactful is intention. So like radical intentionality. And what that looks like, actually, it's great. So we have our whiteboard in the background for people that are watching on video, which has our relationship board meeting structure on it. So every Sunday, although the last couple of weeks have been a little wonky, we've been kind of like doing it throughout the week with the moving, but we fill out the entire next week's worth of activities, in particular as a couple, and also being very mindful of individuality within that. And we have different buckets of the things that we know fuel us, both as a collective and individuals again. And yeah, we flow the week in order to best serve our connection, our excitement, our playfulness, our physicality. Sex is like the biggest one around. Actually, the whole meeting revolves around sex, more or less. Different buckets, like different kinds of sex. What time of day are we doing it? Where is she at in her cycle? Those kind of things. Like, I think a lot of couples would be like, scheduling sex. Like, we literally put it on our shared calendar, because we have a shared calendar called Jordan Does Alexa.
Now people will email us.
I didn't say where, I didn't say what it was.
They can try them all. There's like 3.
And there's the one that most people would probably guess that would be right.
Right. We'll respond.
Totally. And yeah, and so counterintuitively to some, it is sexy AF to schedule sex on your calendar.
I mean, it is. We don't like do all of the details, but just knowing that that's a window where we are both going to check out of whatever else we are doing and prioritize our intimacy. Yeah, it's really good shit.
And it doesn't even always involve actual sex. Most times it does. But we can maybe dig into the nitty gritties of that. But that's, intentionality, I think, is the biggest thing for, quote, conscious couples.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings it full circle. Is like scheduling sex can be viewed a certain way, but it can also be viewed with intention and intimacy and as something to be excited about. And so it all comes down to like, what is your intention with scheduling it? Are you doing it because your partner just like wants you to put out and you're like, when do I have time for this? Let's see. This day? No. Or is it because you care about the relationship and want to set that time aside? So that's beautiful. It's a beautiful invitation for whoever's listening to create that for themselves, even, or in a relationship.
Yeah. And if that's a stretch to go straight to scheduling sex, if sex is I'd say a trigger or a point of tension, then schedule the things that are required in order to get you to wind up scheduling sex. We schedule sex the way that we do because we have the foundation of the relationship that we are continuously every day working on and working towards. And some people aren't there. So what is it going to take to build trust, build intimacy, build more communication, those kinds of things? So prioritize scheduling those things, making sure that they're on the schedule. Because for me, if it's not on the calendar, like I just don't do it. Totally. It's just not, I like live and breathe by Google calendars. I don't know how my life has turned out, Like right now we have this time scheduled to move. Well, we have this time scheduled for Serena, but yeah.
Yeah.
I have a little bit that I could weigh on the conscious couple thing.
Yes.
Just in like us coming together, we knew what we wanted. So we bring awareness. So just this whole idea of consciousness and that kind of thing, but like we are critically aware and self-aware as best as we possibly can be. And of course, we're always learning that this is multifaceted and has lots of layers. Thank goodness. Otherwise, life would get pretty boring. But when we first got together, I knew what I wanted and what I was desiring in a partnership. And I believe you did as well. And we knew right away we were both going to have a certain standard in this relationship, and that we were going to hold each other accountable throughout it. And in moments where we would fall back onto, like, I'd say patterns from previous relationships or patterns that had been playing out, it's what do we get to choose to? Not that we need to, we're choosing. What can we choose to do right now to help us break past that, break through that, and ultimately make our relationship better? And so having this like ruthless standard, like I am going to uphold this standard no matter what, no matter how painful it is at times. And so us coming together, both knowing that this was not just important, but mandatory.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of sidebar here, what are some really quick examples of practices that people could do to get to the point of desiring sex? You know, because you spoke of like wanting to build trust, or I forget what exactly you said, but what are some practical examples that people could do to get there?
Yeah, there's so many. The first one that comes up though is putting yourself in sexy situations. So this weekend we are attending a workshop, supporting it, called Tantra Meets BDSM here in Austin. And this is the second time we've done it. And we do those kinds of things frequently. This past weekend, we hosted a sexy Valentine's Day dinner with a bunch of our conscious couple friends. I call them the coalition of conscious couples here in Austin. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced. They're
other couples that are like us.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. That's another thing. Get good friends.
Oh, get good couples friends in particular. It's like, massive up leveling.
Or if you're single, get good single friends.
Yeah.
Not friends that will gossip with you, but like friends that will legit support you.
So important.
Yeah, and your growth.
So put yourself in sexy situations.
The weekend before that, we did 2 workshops back to back. One was threesomes and moresomes. Like
how to construct extraordinary moresomes.
Extraordinary moresomes. So we just went, even if we were not interested in having a threesome or a moresome, we like to challenge our belief structure around it, and we love the conversations. I love the conversations that we have when we put ourselves in these challenging containers. Right? Because I can only lead so much. I want to be the student sometimes, and especially in our dynamics. And then the one right behind that was like, I think kinky tantra. Yeah. And so it's about like playing with energetics in a kinky way. Yeah. And just like throwing a lot of taboo things, right? I do this for my work, but I don't oftentimes have the excuse to bring it into our relationship in that way. So we put ourselves in sexy containers and sexy situations frequently. And I'll go ahead and say that that's not going to be where a lot of people are at. They might consider, oh my God, they went to like a threesomes thing. Is it like a play party? Are people getting naked and fucking in front of each other? And while that didn't happen, that happened later in the evening, and we did not attend that particular portion. But it's, some people are not going to be there. The whole idea of like going and putting themselves in that very vulnerable position is a little bit of a stretch. And so there's going to be like some behind the scenes stuff that a couple can do.
I have a thing. Won't.
Yep.
Come on.
Like the want, won't. Start there. It's a chart. I have it as a free download. Serena, I'm happy to give it to you. It's one of my favorite exercises. It's like 300 questions that are asking you, what do you want? What do you absolutely not want to have happen? And what will you do for your partner if your partner wants it? And
it's both on the giving and receiving end. You can do it individually and or collectively in a partnership. When we did it, it sparked like a 4-hour processing, conversation, heart opening,
tears,
on so many levels.
Sex.
Yeah.
It was everything.
So that's a great, I would say, for any couple that's wanting to be conscious, that, and specifically in the area of sex, and that might be like for most people, certainly for me it was and still is, like taboo and uncomfortable. That is the structure of that just lends itself to radical conversations that lead to lasting transformation.
Yeah, I actually have that list.
Yeah,
But I think that you have it accessible somewhere now, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, so maybe I can put that in the podcast notes for
Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely. I have it available now, and that, I think, for a lot of people, like, how some people will say, I know that there's more. They've experienced more, that they know that there's more in sex and relationship and intimacy. But the issue for some people, or the challenge for some people, is that they don't really know what the more is. And even if they did know what the more is, the ability to communicate it and understand where their boundaries are and where their fuck yeses, their full body fuck yeses are, is a little bit blurry. And so exercising the language and exercising the communication around it, exercises like the won't help to get those juices flowing and lubricating the throat, and also maybe lubricating other parts, because it's very sexy. So yeah, that is a beautiful place to start. And also scheduling and planning other intimate things. I love opportunities to watch you shine. I love, like, there's no aphrodisiac than getting to watch my man radiate, like, be in his brilliance and in his genius. And so, like, how can I arrange that? Like, how can I manufacture? I'm not passively allowing life nor my relationship to happen to me.
Mhm.
So if I know that is going to turn me on and get me, like, right and raring, then how can we seek that?
I love
And
that.
asking more expansive questions
Mhm.
like that, you can let your relationship or your sex life just happen to you and put it, like, in other hands, so to speak, or you can participate in it.
Yeah, I love that. I'll add to the will, won't, what is it? Will, want, and I don't want to get it wrong.
Want, will, won't.
Thank you. That list is like a key because, as Jordan said, it can be uncomfortable sometimes to have those sex talks and sex conversations. And so, if you have this structure and this thing in front of you, it can make it easier to open and share. So, I highly recommend it for whoever is interested. And then, with that segue, as far as sex talks go, I know you guys personally, and so I know a lot of like your story and your stories and your shares. And so I found it somewhat challenging to come up with questions because I'm like, I already know what all of their answers are going to be. But one question that struck me is like, you guys early on had all of these conversations because you are conscious humans and you were that way before you came together, and now it's just kind of magnified into the beautiful relationship that you guys share. So being single myself and navigating the single world, I'm not afraid to start those conversations and have the sex talk. And dating with, also I have an STD, so dating with herpes, I get to have that conversation and open up that can of worms with people. But how early should people have the sex talk, and what are some helpful tools that you can gift our listeners to facilitate the sex talk? What does a healthy sex talk look like?
You want to lead this one, Miss?
I mean, but you can share what you,
my experience,
and then I can just, like, talk on this for days.
Okay.
Do you remember at the workshop that we went to, we did the sex health,
elevator pitch?
The sex health elevator. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Parts of it?
Not really.
That's okay. I just thought maybe he remember that and could share that. But I know pieces of it. So you flow that out, because I think, like, our relationship, I probably brought that up sooner than maybe any other partner or potential partner.
Yeah. So to provide a little context, Alexa and I started connecting online before we ever met in person. The story is beautiful and fairy tale like and really just fun. I'm super proud of it. I reached out to her on Facebook with a voice note, having just caught a Facebook Live of hers where she was sharing so vulnerably and powerfully something she was experiencing. And this is right around when you and I met, Serena. So you saw on my end, up close and personal at a retreat, me going through a heartbreak experience like she was, and just like raw and wide open for everybody to see. And it was beautiful. I like moved into a new evolution of myself and a higher expression that brought me to her very quickly. So we had a few FaceTime dates. The energy was getting big. I was like, fuck, I gotta go meet her and see her in person. Like I knew I was falling in love, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta follow this fast moving energy and capitalize on it. And so within a few weeks, I was flying out to meet her in person for the first time in New Orleans. I was living in Encinitas, San Diego before that, or at that time. And so a few days, probably 4 or 5 days before, she sent me a voice note. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but something along the lines of, when was the last time you got an STD, STI checkup?
Thank you.
STI.
You did it.
Yes, I got
it. Thank you.
And I was already feeling like some fear / some expectation around that being something that we would get to go through. And, because of her work, and that was like a lot of what drew me toward her, because she was so radical, the things she was talking about, and just so fucking sexy, physically, energetically, spiritually, from what I could see and experience from afar. And so she asked me that. It had been several years. And so I definitely had some feels around it. I was like, yeah, it's time. It needs to be done. This feels good to kick off the relationship like that. And so went and got checked, and I'm going to share it, baby. I'm going to do it.
Share it.
I don't know that I've ever shared this publicly. Yeah. I've certainly told a handful of people, but this feels just like a really good opportunity.
And so, to destigmatize this.
Yeah, definitely.
You know how I feel about it.
So I got there and had not gotten my test results back yet. And it was like night 0. I was staying with her. And so it's like, let's take this a bit slow. Maybe not on night 1, jump the bones, and all things considered. And so then the next day I found out. I got my test results back, and I had chlamydia. And I did not even know it. Like, I had nothing that I could see there that I was experiencing. And I was fucking terrified to tell her. It was like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with this woman, and I'm going to ruin it right in the beginning before it even has a chance to be anything. And I was feeling all those feels, had the difficult conversation, and yeah, my heart was just pounding, like lightheaded, like just sensation fucking overload.
Are you experiencing that on your body?
A little
right
bit,
now?
yeah.
I can see that in you. I love how you just project it, right? I had the difficult conversation. It was difficult for you. It wasn't difficult for me.
Well, I'm getting to that, Miss Lady. And her response was so damn casual. And I'm just like, wait, what? She, if I recall correctly, she actually didn't even say anything at first. She just like smiled, almost like a subtly, "Aw, that's cute" kind of a vibe. And like just tastefully condescending enough.
I know. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time.
No, it was
way more
incredible.
graceful now.
No, it was perfect given the circumstances, like how I was feeling, because it was this palpable breath of fresh air energetically that I got to take. And I didn't even know why in that moment yet, but I just felt it. And she walks into the bathroom, comes back, and she has some pills. She's like, oh yeah, like I had a friend or something like your
No, I had
sister.
leftover.
Yeah, okay.
I had the antibiotics for it hanging out in my closet, and it's literally 1 dose of, I believe it's ciprofloxacin, but it might be azithromycin. Doesn't really matter. It's 1,000 milligrams of one particular antibiotic, and that's it. So I gave him 2 because they were 500 milligrams each, and I took 2 because I believe oral sex had happened up to that point, and chlamydia can also hang out in the throat. So he took 2, I took 2, great. And I had been tested before, so it was like this beautiful diffusing of the conversation, and then we got to process how I was so casual about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any more?
No, that's it.
Yeah. How does it feel sharing that?
It feels good. I've shared it with enough like
private.
close people in private,
Yeah.
and even in some of like my men's groups and stuff. So it feels good, and it feels very appropriate. Yes.
Yeah, to me, those things become way less scary and way less charged. For me, was when I got educated, when I actually got educated and gave myself permission to study those things and expand on those things, and then determine how I really felt about them. So we started having, to really answer your question, we started having these conversations from like our first or second conversation. Granted, this is the work that I do, but still, if it wasn't Jordan, and I'd already been navigating, like I prided myself on being bold and brash and, just like upfront with how I felt and what I wanted and what I desired. And there were times where that came off kind of abrasive and wasn't really sexy. It would kind of like ruin the sexiness. And then there were times where I realized like, oh, I can just own this and have this energy and know where I stand in it all. And I don't need to be very in your face about it. It's like, I can just hold the energetic boundary for what I know of myself, which took learning more about myself and learning what I desire. And then the ability to like communicate about it has completely transformed. But it's definitely a game changer of like understanding who I am, what I want, and then knowing, like having an understanding of knowing what I don't know that I don't know, and like putting that on the side. That was a kind of a meta, but right. But like being okay with that, like coming up against something like, oh, this is one of those things that I didn't know. Okay. And like just having that kind of awareness. But yeah, we started having these conversations very early on. And one of my favorite sex educators and sex writers, authors, it's a little bit more on the political side than I'd like for him to be, but I really enjoyed his older stuff. Dan Savage, he has like these mugs and shirts and things that say "fuck first," which is not that you just want to, hi, my name's Alexa, let's go hop into bed, but prioritize that sex is a thing. So many people go into relationships prioritizing what they are told they are supposed to put above everything else. Like, can I communicate with that person in this particular way? Check. Do I like their style? Are they this tall? Do they have this kind of job? And prioritize all these things. Are they good marriage material? Will they be able, all of this stuff, they prioritize that over.
Which is fine and great. But yeah.
Right. But they make all that stuff primary and they make sex a bonus secondary thing. And then as the relationship progresses, a lot of times people experience the secondary thing being the primary reason why the relationship ends. So have these conversations in the order with which it matters.
Yeah, I agree. Couple of things. Number one, I love, Jordan, how you are like cheerleading Alexa's answers. It brings me so much joy. I'm like, fuck yes. I just want someone beside me to be like, yeah, Serena, you just said that. That's awesome. Like, that's amazing and beautiful.
Our wealth dynamics are supporter and star, and our human design is manifesting generator, manifestor.
It makes sense.
For anyone who follows those profile quizzes,
get us a bit deeper.
You get us a bit deeper. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Life has gotten better since we have, like, I think, leaned in
to the personality profile.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And
the love languages. I love all that shit.
Oh, resources. Can we share resources with you?
Yeah, for sure.
So, ways to have the sex conversation. What was another game changer quiz that we did?
Erotic blueprint for sure. Yeah.
Take the erotic blueprint quiz. And then talk.
Yeah. And we can dig into that, but I want to, like, I feel like we kind of hijacked the second thing you were going to say or whatever else. And I would love to honor that.
Where do people go to take that?
Yeah. I just search it, erotic blueprint and
quiz.
Yeah, the quiz. Yeah, erotic blueprint quiz, and it'll pop up.
The lady's name is Jaya, so MissJaya.com.
Got it. So the second thing is I just wanted to take a moment, Jordan, to acknowledge you for sharing and pushing your edge and allowing yourself to normalize those very normal things. Because again, for me, navigating dating, with herpes, it's about like, I don't know why, but I feel like crying and for no reason. But it's challenging to have those conversations, and people just don't know, like I imagine you just didn't know that it was simply an antibiotic, or that it was a conversation that is okay. It's more than okay to have. It's something that we need to have, and more infections would not be spread if these conversations were had. So I would like to encourage and acknowledge the having of the conversations and the spreading of awareness versus the latter. So, it means a lot to me personally, and I'm sure for whoever's listening, to just be witness to you in that. So, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really wish. We're playing our part, even having this open conversation. And then I've been doing this for a while, sexual education and having these conversations. I remember doing a live stream with you a couple of years ago now that had to do with HSV, which for those of you, herpes simplex virus. So it's herpes and HSV, interchangeable language. But yeah, doing our part and having the conversation where this gets to be like, it's harder to get rid of the common cold. We know less about the common cold than we do about chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. And they mostly don't have any symptoms. And a vast majority of the population is going to have an experience with it. So like, if we sheerly just talk about it as common as it is, and in that fashion, then we make really amazing strides in having sex be less taboo across the board and having less stigma. If over 50% of the population is registering positive for HSV, whether that's expressed in a sore or not, that sounds pretty fucking normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like to go, oh, it's no big deal. Now let's talk about how we're going to navigate that. It's just a different conversation or an add-on to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that work and being such a catalyst for other humans. If it's okay, I'm going to move on to the next question.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So I wanted to share just like a personal experience, which is I was dating this guy one time. This is a number of years ago. And he was going through a divorce. And the first time we had sex, he like really took charge in a way that I did not enjoy at all. And looking back now and being the person that I am now, I recognize that there was anger towards women and stuff coming out in that moment and in that expression. And afterwards, I sat down and had a conversation with him and opened up, the doorway to speak about what had happened between us. And it did not end up working out with this man, obviously, but in those moments when something's happening in the bedroom and maybe you don't like it, how do you speak to that? And then also when you're in the bedroom and you want something to happen, how do you speak to that?
Such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pause and acknowledge you for being a very good interviewer. Yes. So practice makes perfect is one thing, right? The more we practice communication across the board in our relationship, that translates into sexual experiences. So it's sometimes, yeah, like but that supports it on some level, yes. Right? I'll share that it's not easy. Like there's so much programming and deep, I'll say like judgments and even traumas in the area of sex that like in the moment and then I'll speak from my perspective and like my experience as a man. If I do something and it feels like it didn't land, it was bad, wrong, I hurt her, something like that, I sometimes in the past will like cower a bit. I'll be like, oh, Jordan, you're a bad boy. You're abusive, or you fucked up. You're inadequate, all those kind of things. And yeah, it doesn't feel good. Then it's like an affirmation of like, oh, this is why I don't do anything other than just the very simple P and the V, like sex kind of scenario. Because then I do this and I fuck it up. And I'm so fortunate and blessed, grateful to have a woman that is continuing to develop more gracefulness in those experiences, where in the moment we can work through that in a way that, yeah, we're pushing against edges, but we come out on the other side more connected, better sex, more understanding. And I'll give a specific example. We were playing with a flogger for like the first time in actual intercourse, and
or leading up to intercourse.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're in a group that shares some of this stuff. I'll just leave it at that. We just kind of like share some of we're conscious couples and some singles too.
We are exhibitionists sometimes.
Yeah. And share some of that stuff with one another. And so we said, oh, this would be a good opportunity. I think I said, this would be a good opportunity to post that group. And so I start taking a video of me doing it. And I was so concerned with, or I was so focused on the video and like sharing, and I'll say even like ego and making it good, that I was not present fully with her and what we were doing and this newish experience, which is so much more important and so trumps the other piece of it, right? And I paid for it because I went too hard and hurt her. And in the moment,
really hurt me, but yeah, you crossed the threshold.
Yeah, crossed the threshold. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, to get a bit more specific with it, with the flogging, it's like, it will do like a scale of 1 to 10. Like, what is the pain level? Or like, what is it? What are you feeling? Right.
The impact on the impact, because it might not be registering pain. It might be a psychological thing. Just like, how is it affecting you? 1 to 10.
Yeah. And floggers, there's a massive range of like what the pain can experience, right? Because the thicker the flogging, like what do you call
material.
The material?
Yeah, the leather.
You can fucking whack someone and it doesn't hurt. It makes a loud sound and it seems like that would be crazy painful, but it's not.
It's more of the impact itself and the thud and the pressure that happens versus one that has little tiny pieces. Stings.
Yeah, it's like a whip.
Yeah.
So this one's thicker, and so I was being just a bit, not mindful and sort of careless with it, and given all these circumstances.
And those practices require that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so gave her a little spanking that was like a 9. And
that's not the sweet spot. The
sweet spot is like 6, 7, and maybe 8 if you're in it. Yeah. And so and she was like not cool with it. And it definitely, there was like a mini blow up. Not like a blow up, that's a bit extreme to say, but it was like,
no, it was a diffusing that needed to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what was really wonderful about that experience though, in particular, is because again, the previous version of myself, that happening, I would have like, I'm never doing this again. I would like get into my small self insecurities. I would like,
this isn't for me.
Yeah, this isn't for me. This is why I don't do this. Yeah, all these kind of things. But because of our practice and our communication and us pushing the edges and ultimately, foundationally, we are in it for each other. Like I'm rooting for her and she's rooting for me. And knowing that like, this is not like me against you ever, no matter how intense the scenario is, like, that is such a freeing energy to know, so that when something like that happens, I can be like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but like, oh, she, even though there's this temporary experience, like she supports me and like, we're good. We're going to work through this and we're going to be better because of it. And we were, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, that was a great story.
Yeah.
That was a great story. I remember in that moment, it being one of the times where could have like turned around and been like, you didn't do that right.
Yeah.
You know, but instead if I remember that correctly, I let you feel how that registered to me, and that registered on a deep level. Cause I was like, I felt like you weren't present with me, and that really hurt. And like, just the way that, and it hurt on a couple levels, physically and also emotionally, right? Because we're talking trust here. And if this is something that we are cultivating together, I need you to be uber present in that. If I'm going to be in this position and I'm going to leave myself open vulnerably and I'm going to submit to you, because that's what I ultimately desire. I do enough in my day to day. I would love to submit to my man and be feminine and all of that. And sometimes these really cool, kinky practices can play a role in it. Like we get, in a sense, to harness some childlike innocence in this very not so innocent kind of play space, I should say, because it is called play space, right? And a lot of those things are not really about the sex. It's about the erotic nature of what leads up to being open to sex. And something that I would like to just presence from your story that you shared, Serena, is to differentiate between aggressive and dominant.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, if you would like share a little bit on that, but yeah, like what you perceive since being with me and me posing that these are not the same things. How has that shifted for you? No, I'm the interviewer, sorry.
No, it's like, especially with what Serena said, I think that's a super important thing to distinguish. So yeah, I did not really know that difference coming into this relationship with Alexa. I did, but I didn't really. To me, some level.
A lot of people and men can relate to that too, just like not knowing.
Yes. And
like she likes it rough, but when I'm rough, it like hurts her emotionally. But like, she wants me to choke her sometimes, but then other times she wants me to be like so gentle and delicate. There is a note in there to learn about menstrual cycles, but
so there's infinite factors at play here. And I don't want to get necessarily into too many of them, although we can if that's what happens. But it's more that the difference for me is aggressive feels forced. It has a foundational inauthenticity behind it. It's
roughness, and I'm going to hurt you.
Yeah, it's
about me.
Self-serving. It's about me, exactly. Those are the biggest things around it. And to me, in the beginning, like when I was first like playing around with this idea of being like dominant, it was, again, aggressive is what that meant to me. So it's like, oh, I'm going to pull her hair, or I'm going to like smack her ass, or things like that. And
I was like, dude, no.
And those, and like, I didn't even really enjoy doing those things, but like, I was like, I guess I'm kind of supposed to do this because I hear that other guys do this and that some girls like it. And Alexa's in this kind of like BDSM, alternative sex kind of space. So that's what this means, right? Like, be aggressive, be more physically forceful. And that's so not it. There can be elements of that interwoven, but that is not like the foundational energy at play. It's much more like confidence. It's deep, authentic kindness. It's,
dare you say kindness while you're yielding a flogger.
Totally.
Right? It's very counter or contradictory, logically contradictory.
And this is where like the power dynamics play comes into play, dom and sub, dominance and submission. And so being the dom, and we'll just say in sort of a heteronormative situation, I holding masculine, her holding more the feminine, I'm the dom, she's a sub in a sexual scenario, and it doesn't even have to be sexual, but that's what we're talking about. It is like, I'm doing this for her. And that might be the thing that is most notable for me. Like, I'm not actually doing it for me. Yeah, of course it's for me also, but I'm like, she is calling the shots, even though it seems like I am, because I am directing the energy, but I'm doing it ultimately for her and like then for us collectively. So that's a bit abstract.
It's kind of meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you can probably dig into this too.
Yeah. Well, just the main thing that I will say on that particular subject is that with dominance, and I've heard this best put by our mentor, is that presence and attention is the currency in those situations.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like deep presence. And what is required in Tantra? Like, what is a Tantra about? Presence, breath, sound, movement. What is happening in a BDSM scene? like a really good one. Presence, breath, sound, movement.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
they mirror in a lot of ways, and one has elements of dark and light, and the other one has elements of dark and light. And so you also asked, like, how in the moment. So you did this a little while ago. You said, I like to pause for a moment and present something. So sometimes it's called a presence pause. I like to present something I'm feeling and experiencing. It asks for, what is unfolding right now, to just take a moment so that I can share what is coming up. And then maybe we acclimate, or we course correct. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for, course correct. The other thing that I'll mention is that when you want to share something really big about how the sex is being offered to you, don't do it while you're naked. It's really vulnerable.
Do it before if possible. Obviously,
not even right before naked, like Tuesday, 9:00 over coffee. We're not even getting sexy right now, but like maybe it'll turn into that. But do it in a space where like sex is not even like a thing.
Separating that.
That way you get to have a normal conversation about a sexual topic versus having a sexualized conversation about something that's not actually, like, that's not technically really all that sexy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you're in the bedroom, your heart rate is increased, there's blood flowing, emotions are rising, it's not the most ideal time to have the sex talk, which I learned, and or these kinds of sexual conversations. So yeah, I love that. And I love that differentiation as well, Jordan. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people can benefit from just having that knowledge. So I have like 4 questions left that I wanted to run through with you guys. I know that we started a little bit late, but I just wanted to pause and check in with you on time and stuff, because I know you're amidst a move.
Yeah, I'm loving this. Let's keep it flowing, and I'll make sure that she isn't as long-winded as she can be. I'm gonna dominate my woman here. Yes, we would love to.
If you would like to give us more directives, like, Jordan, only you answer this question, I won't weigh in.
Okay, yeah.
Go get the flogger. No, I'm just kidding.
It's packed.
It is packed. Otherwise, it'd be out.
I have other things in my.
I bet you do. So I want to know, you guys share online a lot, and I love how much you share online because it plays into the whole normalizing what is already normal. And, I share a lot online. So, of course, I really resonate with the authenticity, the vulnerability of your relationship. And there are times when I sense like, did one of them like maybe not like that this was shared online? Or, I just have these like questions in my head about how being an online entrepreneur and being so authentic, so vulnerable, so open, how does that, if it does at all, affect your relationship, and how do you navigate that if so?
I'm going to speak to what I think the question was-ish, or at least what's coming up for me in response to that. And if you feel like you're not something cool, but yeah, like sometimes when I share something, whether I'm by myself, doing a Facebook Live or whatever it is, or on Instagram, and or we're together, I'm pushing edges. I'm like, radical honesty. Brad Bland wrote the book on it. It's incredible. I don't agree with all of it, but I think it's a great like core way of being for a society. I'm going to generalize here knowingly, that errs on the side of withholding, which is a form of dishonesty. And so that's like, I think a big distinction that gets to happen in society is like, if you are not sharing things and you're withholding all the time, that like you're more or less lying. And so that has been a wonderful awakening process for me, a recalibration, whereas the pendulum was way over here and just withholding and being a people pleaser and passive aggressive and all these tendencies.
Being shady.
Where it's just, it didn't feel good and it was not good for everybody involved. Now I've swung to the other side of the pendulum a bit at times, like, okay, that was mental transparency. That wasn't actually
emotional dumping.
Yeah, it wasn't like grounded, connective honesty where love is like where it's truly coming from. Okay, I get to, again, course correct, recalibrate, and come back to the homeostasis, the middle of the pendulum, where it's a great balance of those. And the only way to know is if you push the edge. And she's a great reflection for me in those moments where it's like, that was maybe like, let's use a bit better wisdom and discretion next time.
Like, where was that coming from? Was it coming from, if we're really honest with ourselves, or really honest with ourselves, was it coming from an egoic place because it would get a lot of likes? Or was it coming from a place of like deep, where you can infuse humor and authenticity with empathy and understanding how that's going to land for people, not towing the line, well, more or less towing the line, yes, but not like walking on eggshells in this, in fear of social justice warriors or the politically correct police or something like that, but like how to come up to those edges, respectfully and still be able to push them. And sometimes when he pushes edges, he winds up pushing mine. And then we get to process that out. But more often than not, anytime we're going to share something, unless it's live, we talk about it first.
Yeah.
And like what comes up.
Upgrade of late even is like being really intentional behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of the space that I'm in, I have learned to be sensitive to certain types of things in the world. Because I'm in a space where gender variation is a thing. I'm in a space where sexual orientation is very colorful. I'm in a space where people are, big groups of people are reclaiming things for themselves. And so I am directly involved in a lot of trauma healing. And so for my partner to be a lot of time, to have a certain kind of, and dare I use the word privilege, where he's not necessarily involved in watching that go down or experiencing it go down. I have an opportunity to like determine how I can share from another perspective and another side. And also for us both to look at each other and be like, hey, we're different people. I am totally in, like, I've got me and I get to make decisions for myself, and so do you. And regardless of the fit that you may or may not throw, I'm still going to do what I believe is best for me in this moment. And if I wind up having things to deal with on the other end of it, then that's my path to walk. Now, occasionally, because we are so public, there's the potentiality for like either one of us to be like, if I were to share publicly about Jordan and the chlamydia experience, that might, like, even though I would have done it really beautifully and gracefully and all those things, it wasn't my place. Yeah. Not that it even wasn't my place. I don't really like that phrasing, but it's just, there could have been a better way or a different way. And so like some of the things that we share, we look at it a bit critically, like, is there a better way? If we are really adamant about not just being online influencers, but really making impact and helping people grow, which I believe is a part of both of our purposes, then sometimes it takes a redirection, recalibration, course correction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I do. And that question mostly was for me because, I share so openly and vulnerably. And what I'm finding with navigating the single life is that sometimes my communication skills, conversations that I hold, or shares that I put online are perceived in that like abrasive kind of way, just because most humans generally are not as authentic or vulnerable or edge pushing. And so I just honor you both with doing that. And it's just so beautiful, such an inspiration to me personally. So thank you. Thank you for doing the work, you guys. It's great. So another question that I have relates to a story that I've heard from, I think from Alexa, about, yes, it was Alexa, when you were dating for a few months and you had the conversation opening it up about like polyamory or being monogamous, or what stuck out to me was asking the question, how are we going to navigate when you want to have sex with another human? Because that's a thing that happens. And so something that has been really alive in my field on both ends of the spectrum is jealousy, both with men and, with women. So for example, like I don't even know how to navigate necessarily men being really attracted to me. And I don't know how to navigate like being attracted to a man who is in a relationship, and then also how to navigate the woman who is like giving me death eyes, but there's nothing wrong with, in my personal opinion, humans being attracted to other humans because we're human and it's just part of life. And so you saying that, whenever I heard it, really struck a chord with me, because I'm like, yes, this is a conversation that I look forward to having and navigating in the future. So I'm just wondering, how do you, in your relationship, diffuse jealousy, or what advice would you give to both men and women on the spectrum of how to diffuse jealousy? And or, sorry for the loaded question, if you wanted to speak to the story that I'm speaking of at all.
Mm-hmm. So this could be a whole podcast. Like, this is somebody that I'm coaching with right now. This is a big topic for him, where we're going deep into jealousy stuff and trust and insecurity and open relationships, polyamory, monogamish, which is like what we resonate with. Those bring that up in a really, what can be kind of aggressive, confronting way, and which is also amazing. It's an opportunity to grow, to get outside of my paradigm and my conditioning, all that kind of stuff. And it's not for everyone, but I would say that at least having the conversations should be for everybody. I'm a should in this moment, and I feel good about that. I don't like being shit on, but I'll shit on you right now. Yeah. And
talk about it when it's not a thing.
Yeah, talk about it when it's not a thing. And like, if you're coming from that place of love,
cheat, I'll
connection,
kill you.
Yeah, then like, no.
You got some shit to work on personally.
Yeah, because I agree that it, like, I love a beautiful woman and like feeling the energy that arises in my body through that experience. Now, as a conscious man, I get to chickadee check myself before I riggedy wreck myself, in the sense that like, I'm not gonna go over there and like try and pick up on her when I'm in a relationship, or I'm going to be aware of if I'm thinking about that all day and having these like really in-depth stories of like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, or what if, or any of those kind of things. Then it's like, okay, now the monkey mind and like the deep, I'll say even like biological evolutionary programming has just gone fucking haywire. I've allowed it to hijack me instead of fuel me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful to have a reflection of a woman and my intimate partner to work through some of those things. But it's even better to have my men friends that are conscious, that understand and want to check in with their ego, with their sensations, and be a better human being first and foremost, a better partner, and support women in society. And so I'll process those kind of things with them. Man, like, I'm finding that I like kind of have what I would call a crush on this woman who's not Alexa. And it's like, and then they can reflect that back to me. Yeah, I've experienced that also with this. Here's how I dealt with it. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. And it's this wonderful thing where instead of just repressing it and being like, oh, and
it will come out.
It will come out in fucked up ways.
Fuck shit up.
And that's stuff that I'm navigating with one of my clients in particular right now, is like deep repression, which certainly religion is a big proponent or a big part of that for a lot of people. Yeah. And so we're working through, bro, stop repressing. It's just like transmute, right? Flow the energy.
And if you want to express, how?
Exactly.
To
what
do
is
it with more intention.
Yeah, a healthy, sort of safe way to express.
Like, through it all, how do I not repress and on the other side be really pleased with the person I am?
Yeah.
Like, how do I be a good person and value and honor, and also understand that I'm going to make mistakes, but not use that as a crutch? Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Also, the things that you described, and like for both of us, I think going into this relationship, we're not available for that. I'm not available for that. I absolutely just like the whole
jealousy,
hiding and manipulation, all those things. Do I think that we're exempt from it? No, but on an energetic level, not available. Nope. I'm not available. I will do all the work and then some. And also, if it shows its head, understand and have empathy and compassion for the humanness that we are. So we had these conversations when we first got together, when we were all we could see. Because I had some foreshadowing going on. I'd had relationships in the past be literally just laden with these kinds of things. And so I just don't want that anymore. So like, what do I have to do to reverse engineer? Like, if this is where it ended, work backwards, and then from the beginning, like, make those adjustments. And we're not perfect. For sure, we're not perfect.
We're pretty good.
But we do really good. Like I said, there are times where I'm like, damn, we're like, I love those times when I'm like, we're so fucking cool. When I say that to each other, I'm like, we're so cool. Like, look at how we just did that. The end.
That's amazing. I love that. Thank you for that. And yeah, so because you guys are so open, and even in your pre-interview questionnaire, you were like, anything goes. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And so there's so much there to select and to ask about. I'm like, fuck, what do I do? So I started asking the general public, for a lack of better terms, what would you ask a conscious couple and a sex expert and an authentic coach? Like, what questions would you ask if given the opportunity? And the number one most reflected question was, how do you keep sex alive in a relationship where it may be dead?
Well, we definitely spoke to at least part of it, and there's many ways. Fellow conscious couples, and the counterbalance to some degree of that is strong men's group for men, strong lady group for ladies, and like having those core and then the intersection of those, because the tribe, right? The nuclear family, like, we don't have any friends, just us. We're business partners, maybe. We're trying to be lovers. We're parents. We're everything for one another. And so we do nothing really that well. Like, some things are good, but usually sex is the one that oftentimes goes by the wayside.
Because things are boring. Everything is predictable and together, and there's not the distance to create polarity. And
and creating, obviously, novelty is like one of the most sexy things ever, right? That's why sleeping with someone new is like, can be very energizing, and all these kind of things.
And sometimes for some people, sleeping with someone new, if it's outside of the relationship, reinvigorates the connection with their current partner. Because if you want to have more sex, have sex.
Yes.
Mr. Perel.
So, and then again, back to putting yourself in sexy scenarios and situations, like being around sexy energy, because sometimes it can be really difficult to create it within the two of you individually.
When the room and the bed is all the same as all the last times.
You sleep in it, you wake up in it, your dog
rolls around in it, the kids are in it.
Sometimes there's not always like the most sexy energy there.
Right.
I'll weigh in, like, people oftentimes will say, how can I get the spark back? Or I have one client that uses, like, when we first got together, I wanted to jump his bones all the time. And now, like, how do I get that back? Well, first off, I just want to go ahead and throw out that you're not going to get something back. That was very unique to that time. The phrase for the what it's called is limerence, where you are infatuated with this new
honeymoon
person,
phase.
Or the honeymoon phase. You're infatuated with this new person. They represent a lot of varying neurochemicals. They are new and exciting, and so there's risk, and where's this going to go? And so there's adrenaline, and there's serotonin and dopamine, because they're doing exciting things, and there's a lot of pleasure, and there's no routine yet. And so then there's also lots of oxytocin, like, oh my gosh, I think I'm falling in love. All of that is new. There's cortisol that's, it's less in the beginning, and all of these different things. And so if you look at it from a very scientific perspective, this makes sense. All these things are at a peak, a neurochemical cocktail of bliss. And as routine and things move in, oh my God, it's exciting. And then it's great sex for like a week. And then it's like, oh, you're in my space all the time. God damn it. So, I really don't like the way that you just leave your toothbrush by the sink, libido down. Like, it's just, if you could use these things to your advantage versus going, shit, this is just always going to happen. This is going to always play out where I'm not going to want my partner anymore. No, fuck that. You can choose to take more control. Like, you can have more, you can play more of a role in it. Or you can let your life and your sex life happen to you.
Right.
Versus you being a participant, like I said before. And so if knowing that this is really present in the beginning, how can we recreate, manufacture something for this new phase of our relationship, right? Because this is different. We're at a different time. We're at a different age. We know different things. I've watched you take a shit. Like, there's no turning back from that, right? There's like nothing sexy about it. So, these things that I'm like, oh my God, we are so connected. And how can we take the consistency in the container that we have that provides me safety, provides me security, and provides me all the things that I believe that I need in order to live a thriving life on my own and in a relationship? How can we take all that like safety and security and also add adventure and spontaneity and risk? Because those are equally as important. And if we do not come together and say, we prioritize this number one, then what, like, the repercussion, we're just going to have to deal with the fallout. And I am not available for that.
Yeah, I love that. You just gave people permission, and that's amazing. So the last question is what I've been closing every interview with this month, and it is, what is your best sex, dating, relationship advice? If you were to like plant something in everyone's brain, you now have this wisdom. You're welcome. What is it?
Is it true? If you don't lose it, you
lose it.
Anyway, that came
Your version, yeah. For me, and it's so contextual, but the first one that came up for me is, and this is directed more so to men that are single/dating, and that is, anti-game is the best game. And I did a podcast with one of my Mystic Misfit brothers where we went deep into this. This is something that we've talked about for a long time and experienced in many ways. And it's so fun. And it's rewriting this idea of game, of pickup artistry. It's like conscious pickup artistry. It's like saying the thing that you think you're not supposed to say and letting that fuel like the connection. So like, what I most don't want you to know about me is this kind of a thing, and then again, play with the line of mental transparency versus like radical honesty and like connection within all that. But that was an absolute paradigm shifter for me when I started doing that in dating. Like, man, I'm feeling like a lot of sensations in my body. I'm kind of like nervous meeting you for the first time. And like, I really want to impress you. Like, I found that women love that. And I felt way more authentic and had way more fun. And the connection was like deeper and quicker. And it was amazing. So anti-game is the best game. I'm like in the early-ish to mid stages of doing a course around this stuff.
Boom. Boom. That was great.
Yeah. I'll condense this into prevent boredom in the future by giving yourself permission to explore now.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
So that
mic drop.
I just feel like that could have been so much deeper, but that is basically what I mean. That is inevitable for people in long-term relationships to a degree. I don't want to project all over all the couples that they're just going to be bored with themselves. No, but if people are having the same kind of relationships that I experience with my clients and like I have been in myself, like things get a little stale or a little like not less enthusiastic about it, maybe later down the line. So what can I do right now that gives myself permission to explore at the stage where I am right now? It may not be go to a play party. It may be read a book on female sexuality. It might be go to a workshop that's Bondage 101, where I'm surrounded by other people that value this thing that I am giving myself permission to value as well. So.
Yeah. And I think it is deep. I mean, sometimes just a couple of words is all you need, honestly. Like I I feel like there's so much wisdom in absolutely everything that you've shared for the both of you, and I know that whoever hears this will benefit. So I trust in this process and what is being shared very much, and I trust in you guys. It's why I have you on the show. So thank you so much for being here. And is there anything else that you wanted to share before we end this episode?
Yeah, thank you for having us. This truly was really fun, like a much needed great break from the shit that we're doing that we get to get back into. And I feel more connected to you, to me, to you, Serena. It's been a hot minute since we've dropped in live. So yeah, feeling great, grateful.
Samesies.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.